Another new tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to talk about fragment and fragment lifecycle. As you can see in the figure, this is the detailed diagram of a fragment lifecycle. But let me tell you what we are going to cover here. In this tutorial we are pretty much going to cover what is a fragment, and we are going to talk about fragment lifecycle, and we will also demonstrate, or we will just code in the way to use our fragments in our activity. Okay, so and yeah, that's it. We are gonna pretty much gonna explore more about fragment. Okay, so you will be able to create fragments after this tutorial, but in the later tutorial we will also be talking more about the fragments, like the difference between static and dynamic fragments, because there are different kinds of fragment, and how to pass data from fragments, and from activities, and using navigation graph components, and many more. But I will be focusing this tutorial just to talk about fragment. Then I will just demonstrate how to use them. Okay, so this is the motivation of the tutorial, but in the upcoming tutorials we'll be learning more advanced concept always related with the fragments. So I will strongly suggest you guys to please follow the continuous tutorial to the sequence of the tutorials. Okay, so as you know guys, we explored Android activity lifecycle in the previous tutorials. So pretty much the concept is pretty much similar with the Android activity lifecycle, but there is some slight difference, and we are going to talk about that. Okay, so actually a fragment is a section or a portion of an activity actually. Okay, so activity is like your parent, and fragment is a simple section or portion of your activity. So so it's like just a fragment, fragment, just as the name implies, your fragment is a simple section of your activity. So your fragment will just be running on the activity, right? So the activity is very important, because fragment cannot stand alone by itself. It needs always activity running on the activity. So actually, fragment can be used to simplify creating layouts for Android tablets. So tablets having a very large screen size, to reutilize the space available, we use multiple fragments, like 2 or 3 fragments can be used in the tablet, because the screen size is pretty big, right? But when you have a very average screen size like a phone screen, then you want to just include only one fragment. Yes, right? So that is running on the activity. Okay, so just to optimize the screen size, for tablets we use fragments, multiple fragments, whereas for the simple average size phone, we use just the same fragment, right? Just only one single fragment. So actually, you benefit from reusing and simplifying the layouts, and you don't have to repeat on creating the similar functionality when you are using fragments as a component, because you can reuse your fragment in the case if your screen size is small or bigger, so it adapts. So for this purpose we are using fragment in the sense. Okay, so yeah, we will be exploring more on the advanced concept in the upcoming lecture videos, but let's go and understand about the fragment lifecycle. So fragment, as I told you, is one section of the activity, and it has its own life cycle. Okay, so understanding you can just relate your activity life cycle. As you can see, okay, if you explore your activity life cycle, is pretty much this one, right? You have a series of processes going from on create, on start, on resume, on pause, on stop, destroy, and restart. Similarly, the similar processes will be going on, but there is a difference, is like you have to always attach your fragment to the activity. So fragment is always runs in your activity, and also your fragment life cycle is pretty much bound to your activities life cycle. So so this is the most important concept that you have to understand. And also the similar concept of having callbacks at certain stage of fragment creation, running and destruction, from initialization to displaying to the cleanup. All the similar callback processes works like similar concept is also happening here, just like activity. If you remember the previous section that in the previous tutorial that I have discussed, like from when your activity is launched until your activity destroyed, you have to go through series of processes, and each series of processes is just represented by your callbacks, and you can pretty much modify the callbacks on the basis of your requirement, right? The similar processes is also happening in your fragment lifecycle, but always, your fragment is pretty much attached to the activity, so the lifecycle of your fragment is pretty much related, depending on the lifecycle of your activity, right, on which the fragment is running. So as you can see that we have multiple callbacks. As the diagram shows, the fragment is at first attached to your activity, then it goes to the creation and initialization stage in this, utilizing these three callbacks: on create, on created view, on view created, and then fragment is visible on the start, and fragment has input focus on resume, and fragment loses its focus on pause, and fragment is not visible on stop, and finally you have a detach is fine, going also through the process on destroy, view, on destroy, and then on detach. The fragment is detached from the activity. So this is it, guys. So what more we can talk about the fragment lifecycle is, so you can also override, as I told you, you can override whichever callbacks you want on the basis of your requirement of your or your purpose of your application, right? So okay, let's go step by step. As I told you, on attach, this is the point where your fragment is being linked to your activity it is using. So actually at this stage, neither your fragment nor your activity has been fully created, so it's pretty much your you are pretty much getting uh, it's like it's the attaching phase, so you have to be so fragment is pretty much getting attached to the activity. So at this stage you don't do some initial setup is not done here. You just don't pretty much write any of the initial setup code here, so you have to be just careful about this one. And similarly on as you can see, on pause is pretty much going after your fragment has lost the input focus. So it's pretty much this on pause is pretty much the section in which your fragment is going to go to background, right? So on create and when you have the on create, like during this on create, like there is no UI available to display, okay, as you remember, in the activity we have a set content view, right? So we also don't do set content view in fragment, because we will be doing pretty much on create view, and on create view will be pretty much passing the layout. Actually it is not passing, it will be returning the layout view from the function. So this on create view will pretty much create your view and pass the view, okay. I mean pass the view in the sense that it is gonna return the view. So we will be programmatically going through this overriding these callbacks. And finally on view created is like when your fragment will be fully created and being visible to the user. So at this stage you can pretty much after your on view is created, you can pretty much do all your initial setup of your views and add functionality and interactivity, like you can attach your click listeners and your buttons, and all your initial setup of codes, setting up your code and attaching like adding your click listeners to your button is done on this stage, like on this callback on view. Once your on view is created, that means your fragment is pretty much created at this stage Okay, so this is the very important concept, guys. Your fragment is pretty much being created completely, fully created on this on view created, as the callback the name suggests. It's your fragment is pretty much completely created or fully created at this callback, so you can do all your initial code setup here. Okay, so this is a very important concept. I would like to repeat, and I mean, like, I repeated it multiple times. And so this is the code where we are gonna update our view. Okay, and we also have some multiple, like you have on start your fragment is properly visible, on resume your like your during the on resume fragment has input focus, right? And your fragment pretty much goes on the background, on pause, on stop, fragment is not visible at all. And finally you have go through the process of destruction of your fragment, and finally the fragment will be detached from the activity. And this is how the life cycle of the your fragment is pretty much working. Okay, so this is your fragment life cycle. Okay, so after knowing about the fragment life cycle, so we would like to pretty much implement this fragment life cycle. Okay, so we will just go to like Android Studio, then start creating our fragment. Okay, let me go to this section of fragment lifecycle demo. I'm pretty much giving a demo of a fragment lifecycle. Then I will be creating a fragment. So to create a new fragment is pretty simple. Just go to new, then you have to choose your activity, and I mean, like, you have to choose one of this section, and in the fragment section just choose a blank fragment, click this. So just rename it and choose like it's a demo fragment, and you finish it up, and your demo fragment will be automatically created by this template driven approach. And voila, so you have a demo fragment. Okay, and once you have the demo fragment, so we will try to make some little changes here. So what we will be doing is we'll be doing pretty some kind of a some slight modification to and adding our logs to get the information, right? So the actually, as I suggest you, your fragment is pretty much attached to your activity, so we will have to also create a demo activity where your fragment is gonna get attached. So here I have an empty layout. Okay, let me just remove this for the sake of the clarity of the screen, and then I will be pretty much have to add the fragment. So pretty much you have a fragment here. So your fragment is matching the parent, and your fragment is pretty much getting attached to your demo fragment. Okay, this is my ID, and your name of the fragment will be pretty much your demo fragment, right? So here pretty much we are attaching our fragment. Okay, so this is it, but we have to be also let's create some. Let me go to my demo activity, and let me add some of the logs also here. Yeah, but I also need a tag, right? So let me create a tag. Okay, so I have a okay, I added a tag to on create. Then similarly I also add other callbacks like on start. I add the logs here. Okay, similarly on resume I also add the callbacks here. Resume, and then I will also have other like on pause. and similarly other callbacks like on stop. And finally we also have other callbacks like on destroy. Okay, so here goes our activity is pretty much okay, and we have a fragment which is pretty much uh, okay, which was auto generated by the template driven approach, that template provided by Android Studio. But what I want to do is I want to pretty much run and check if our activity is okay for manifest. Okay, let me go to the manifest. Let me make some slight modification because what we are gonna do right now in this, it's a fragment demonstration. Okay, so here we have our activity. Okay, sorry guys, actually it should be I'm making some mistakes because I was outside the application, so it should be always inside the application, right? You have to declare your all your activities, so it's like a demo activity. Your demo activity is pretty much exported to, and then also it will have uh, a intent filter because it's a launcher activity for the moment. And let me close the previous okay, so now we are in a fragment demo. Okay, so we not only have a yeah, this is it, because the next one is the activity, so we just need the demo activity particularly. And another interesting concept that you have to understand is you don't need to just pretty much declare your fragment inside your manifest file. You don't need to do that. Okay, so this is a slight note. Okay, so let me run, because you know the fragment is pretty much running over the activity. Okay, let me run the application. So you see now we have a hello blank fragment that we pretty much created by our template. Okay, so it's pretty much running for the moment. And so let's move further, and let me check out what we can do is okay, let me open the XML layout of the our fragment. Okay, so our XML layout of our fragment is this is our fragment demo activity. I want to pretty much gravity to center. Okay, so this is our pretty much our fragment. And yes, now what we are gonna do is we are gonna do the similar application of callbacks to our let's add logs to our to each of the methods that we have overridden. So first thing is we have to, as I told you, the first callback was on attach, right? So just on attach, let me write the callback log to the okay. But first of all we also need a companion. Let's yeah, we already have a companion object, but we need a constant. We need a tag which is pretty much a demo fragment, right? It's a tag. And on attach, let's add some logs pretty much with the tag. And on attach, okay, so after on attach we have on create. So let me add the logs also here, and on create. Okay, then we have a on create view. As I told you in my previous lecture, so on create view is pretty much returning a view, right? You see, it's pretty much returning the view that you have passed, that you have inflated, right? So let's add some logs also here. So create view, okay, and and finally, not finally, actually we have multiple callbacks. So on view created, so this is also another law callback. Let me add the logs also on view created. Actually, I told you this is the point where you can pretty much override and set up your view, right? Because your fragment is fully created here in this stage. Created at this stage of callback. Okay, then similarly we have on pause, and we will have on, so we'll try to implement all our callbacks of our fragment on pause. Then we have on stop, okay, and then we will also have on destroy view, okay, and we will also have more callbacks like sorry guys, on destroy, as I told you, it's like and finally on detach, right, where your fragment will be pretty much detached from the activity. Okay, so at this stage we are pretty much ready to go and launch our activity again, and then we'll gonna go to the logcat, and let's go to the demo activity VT. Okay, let me cancel this and okay, let me rotate the orientation so that fragment will be recreated, and I want to show the demonstration. Let me check out. I've been getting multiple okay, so here you see at this point, let me put it demo. Okay, so let me do it again. Let me cancel this logs. Let me you see the fragment, I mean, like, your activity will be recreated at the same way your fragment will also be recreated, right? So it goes on pause and stop. You see your activity is on paused, then your fragment is stopped, your activity will be stopped, and your fragment will be destroyed on destroy view, on destroy, and then finally it gets detached with this series of callbacks, right, as I was telling you. Then on destroy, and you see your fragment is on attached first, then you create, then on create view, then finally on view created. At this stage your fragment is pretty much ready, right? And similarly goes also, your activity gets created, right? So actually the your fragment is at first created, okay, because your fragment is pretty much attached to your activity. Okay, so let me restore everything. Okay, actually it's not getting created. Okay, you see it's again getting created to on attach, on create, resume. So yeah, this is the concept, guys. All this similar process, like on attach, on create, on view created, view on view created, and then your activity will be pretty much visible with on start, on resume, and yeah, and finally all these callbacks are being called, right? uh, Okay, so yeah, I was pretty much being able to give a brief demonstration about the fragment and fragment life cycle. Hope everything is pretty much clear. If you have any questions and queries, please do write me in any comments. Okay, and if you like it, please do subscribe and press the bell icon button, and catch you in the next lecture, guys. Thank you.